Daddy, that homeless woman in a wheelchair looks just like Mommy. When the millionaire saw her, he fainted on the spot. Before we begin, let's create a wave of positivity. Comment one word that describes how you're feeling today. The salty. Boston breeze carried memories that Michael Anderson wasn't ready to face. 2 years had passed since Emma's tragic accident, yet every sunset over the harbor still whispered her name. At 38, the successful biotechnology entrepreneur had built an empire, but couldn't rebuild the broken pieces of his heart. Daddy, can we get the chocolate cake? 5-year-old Lily's voice pulled him from his thoughts as they sat at their usual table at Harborview, an exclusive waterfront restaurant overlooking Boston's bustling pier. Of course, sweetheart, Michael smiled, watching his daughter's eyes light up. These Saturday lunches had become their ritual, a desperate attempt to create normalcy in a world that felt anything but normal. Lily suddenly stopped mid-bite of her grilled cheese, her small finger pointing excitedly across the street. Daddy, look, that homeless lady in the wheelchair, she looks just like Mommy? Michael's blood ran cold. Against every instinct, he turned to follow his daughter's gaze. Across the busy street, hunched in a weathered wheelchair, sat a woman whose profile made his heart skip. The tangled hair, the familiar curve of her jaw, the way she held her shoulders despite obvious hardship. It wasn't Emma, but it was someone he'd never expected to see again. Catherine, he whispered, the name escaping his lips like a prayer. Without thinking, Michael stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his chair. Lily, stay right here with your lunch. Daddy will be back in just a moment. He rushed across the street, dodging traffic, his successful businessman facade crumbling with each step. As he approached the woman, she looked up with tired but unmistakably familiar green eyes. Kate Mitchell? His voice cracked. The woman in the wheelchair stared at him for a long moment, recognition dawning slowly across her weathered features. Michael Anderson, she said quietly. I never thought I'd see you again. The world tilted. This was Dr. Catherine Mitchell, Emma's brilliant best friend from medical school, the promising neurologist who had vanished from their lives 8 years ago without explanation. And now here she was, broken and homeless, looking nothing like the confident woman who once shared Emma's dreams of changing the world. Michael's legs gave out, and everything went black. Cold water splashed against Michael's face as consciousness slowly returned. The harsh Boston pavement beneath him felt like a cruel awakening from a dream he wasn't sure he wanted to escape. Above him, Kate's weathered face came into focus, her green eyes filled with the same concern that once made her the most promising neurologist of her graduating class. Easy there, she whispered, her voice carrying years of exhaustion. You hit the ground pretty hard. Michael struggled to sit up, his mind racing to process the impossible scene before him. The Kate he remembered wore designer clothes and carried herself with the confidence of someone destined for greatness. This woman, thin, scarred, with calloused hands gripping the wheels of an old wheelchair, seemed like a ghost of that brilliant future. Kate, what happened to you? The question escaped before he could stop it. Her laugh was bitter, hollow. Life happened, Michael. Life happened in ways I never saw coming. Across the street, through the restaurant's large windows, Michael could see Lily still at their table, now standing on her chair and waving at them with innocent enthusiasm. The sight of his daughter brought him back to reality. I have to get back to Lily, he said, steadying himself as he stood. But Kate, please, we need to talk. Let me help you. Help? Kate's voice cracked. Michael, look at me. I'm not the woman you once knew. I'm not the woman Emma once trusted. Before Michael could respond, a familiar voice cut through the afternoon, air like a blade. Michael Anderson, what on earth is going on here? He turned to see Eleanor Harrison, Emma's mother, approaching with her usual commanding presence. At 65, Eleanor still carried herself like the successful attorney she'd been before retirement, her silver hair perfectly styled, her expression shifting from confusion to something darker as her eyes fixed on Kate. Eleanor, Michael began, but the older woman's face had already transformed into a mask of barely controlled emotion. Catherine Mitchell. Eleanor said slowly, her voice dripping, with an old anger that Michael had never understood. I should have known you'd find your way back eventually. Kate's hands tightened on her wheelchair's armrests. Mrs. Harrison. The tension between the two women was palpable, charged with secrets that Michael felt but couldn't grasp. Eleanor's eyes narrowed as she studied Kate's condition, her expression unreadable. We'll discuss this later, Eleanor said firmly, her gaze moving between Kate and Michael. Lily is watching. Michael pulled out his business card with trembling hands. Kate, please. Call me tonight. Let me help you get back on your feet. He stopped, realizing his poor choice of words. Kate took the card, their fingers brushing, for just a moment. Some things can't be fixed, Michael. Some bridges burn completely. Not all of them, he whispered. Emma would want. Don't. Kate's voice was sharp, final. Don't tell me what Emma would want. As Michael walked back toward the restaurant, Eleanor's words followed him like a curse. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. Back at their table, Lily bounced excitedly. Daddy, was that really Mommy's friend? She has the same pretty eyes. Michael forced a smile, but his hands shook as he reached for his coffee. Across the street, Kate was wheeling away, growing smaller with each turn of her wheels. Eleanor stood watching her go, her face a storm of emotions Michael couldn't begin to decipher. Whatever had happened 8 years ago, whatever had torn apart Emma's closest friendship, was about to resurface, and Michael had the sinking feeling that his family was about to be forever changed. The grandfather clock in Michael's study chimed 9 times as he stared at his phone, Kate's business card lying beside it like a question mark. Lily had fallen, asleep hours ago, exhausted from an afternoon of building fairy houses in the garden, her way of processing the strange encounter that had shaken her father's world. When the phone finally rang at 9:17 p.m., Michael answered before the second ring. Michael? Kate's voice was barely above a whisper. I wasn't sure I should call. I'm glad you did. He moved to the window, looking out at the moonlit garden where Emma used to read to Lily under the old oak tree. Kate, what happened to you? Where have you been all these years? A long pause stretched between them, filled only by the distant sound of traffic through her phone. 3 years ago, I was in a car accident, Kate began, her voice steady but fragile. Spinal injury, T12 complete. The doctor said I'd never walk again. She took a shaky breath. I was caring for my grandfather. He had Alzheimer's. After the accident, I couldn't work, couldn't afford his care. I lost everything trying to keep him comfortable in his final months. Michael closed his eyes, imagining the brilliant woman he'd known reduced to such desperate circumstances. I've been staying in temporary shelters, sometimes sleeping in my car when there's no space available, Kate continued. Today was the first time I'd been to that part of the city in months. I was there for a job interview that didn't go well. Kate, listen to me, Michael said, the idea forming even as he spoke. Lily needs someone. Since Emma died, she's been so withdrawn, so quiet. But today, when she saw you, she smiled for the first time in months. Really smiled. Michael, what are you saying? I'm saying I want to offer you a job. Live-in caregiver for Lily. Your own room, full benefits, a chance to get back on your feet. The words tumbled out faster than he could think them through. I know it sounds crazy, but it sounds impossible, Kate interrupted. Michael, look at my situation. I'm homeless, disabled, and I haven't seen your family in 8 years. Why would you trust someone like me with your daughter? Michael thought of Lily's face that afternoon, the way her eyes had lit up when she'd pointed across the street. Because when Lily saw you today, something changed in her. Something I haven't seen since Emma died. She looked hopeful. Silence stretched between them again, and Michael could hear Kate crying softly. I don't understand, she whispered. After everything that happened, after the way I left. What did happen, Kate? Emma never told me why you two stopped talking. One day you were her best friend, planning to be her maid of honor, and the next day you were gone. I can't. Kate's voice broke. There are things about that time that I still don't fully remember. The night before graduation, everything is just fragments. Michael leaned against the window frame, watching a shooting star streak across the dark sky. Maybe it's time we figured it out together. What do you say, Kate? Will you come home? The word home hung in the air between them like a promise neither of them was sure they could keep. I'll try, Kate whispered finally. For Lily, I'll try. As Michael hung up the phone, he had no idea that upstairs Eleanor was listening from the guest room phone, her face pale with an old fear that Kate Mitchell's return would uncover secrets some people would kill to keep buried. The Anderson mansion's front door slammed with such force that the crystal chandelier trembled. Eleanor Harrison stormed into the foyer like a woman possessed, her usually perfect composure shattered beyond recognition. Have you completely lost your mind? She screamed at Michael, who was helping Kate maneuver her wheelchair through the doorway. How dare you bring this woman into my granddaughter's life? Kate's hands froze on her wheels, the bag containing her few possessions slipping to the floor. The mansion's marble entrance suddenly felt as cold as Eleanor's fury. Eleanor. Please, Michael began, but his mother-in-law cut him off with a slashing gesture. Please what, Michael? Please ignore the fact that you've invited a complete stranger to care for Lily? Please forget that this woman abandoned Emma when she needed her most? Eleanor's voice cracked with emotion. Please pretend that I don't know things about Catherine Mitchell that would make your blood run cold? What things? Michael demanded, but Eleanor's lips pressed into a thin line. Grandma Eleanor? Lily's small voice drifted down from the top of the grand staircase. The 5-year-old sat on the top step in her princess pajamas, clutching her stuffed unicorn. Why are you yelling? The sight of her granddaughter immediately deflated Eleanor's rage. Kate, meanwhile, looked up at the little girl with such tenderness that Michael's heart clenched. Hi, sweetheart, Kate called softly. Remember me from the restaurant? Lily nodded eagerly, bounding down the stairs with the fearless energy of childhood. You're Mommy's friend. Daddy said you're going to tell me stories about when Mommy was young. Eleanor watched in horror as Lily approached Kate's wheelchair without hesitation, fascinated rather than fearful. That's right, Kate smiled, and, for a moment, her exhausted features transformed into something beautiful. Did you know your mommy once tried to bake cookies in our dorm room and set off every fire alarm in the building? Lily giggled, a sound that had become increasingly rare in the Anderson household. Really? Mommy never told me that. Your mommy had lots of adventures she probably didn't tell you about. Kate winked conspiratorially. Michael watched the interaction with growing amazement. In just minutes, Kate had accomplished what months of expensive child therapists couldn't. She'd made Lily laugh. Eleanor, however, looked like she might be sick. Michael, I need to speak with you privately. Now. As they moved to the study, Eleanor's voice dropped to a furious whisper. You don't understand what you're doing. There are things about that woman, things Emma discovered. Then tell me. Michael exploded. Stop speaking in riddles and tell me what has you so terrified. Eleanor's face went pale. Some secrets die with the people who keep them, Michael. Some doors should never be reopened. And some children deserve to smile again, Michael shot back. Look at Lily. In 10 minutes, Kate has done more for her, emotional healing, than anything since Emma's funeral. Through the study window, they could see Kate in the garden, patiently answering Lily's endless questions about flowers. The wheelchair hadn't slowed her down. She was pointing out different plants, teaching Lily their names, sharing stories that made the little girl clap with delight. She's going to break that child's heart, Eleanor whispered, but her voice lacked its earlier conviction. Just like she broke Emma's. Maybe, Michael said quietly, watching Kate show Lily how to make a chain from dandelions. Or maybe she's going to help heal it. Eleanor turned away from the window, but not before Michael caught something unexpected in her expression. Not just anger or fear, but a deep aching sadness that seemed to come from somewhere very old and very painful. I won't let you destroy what's left of this family, Eleanor said finally. I won't let her hurt Lily the way she hurt Emma. As Eleanor swept from the room, Michael remained at the window, watching Kate's patient interaction with his daughter. Whatever secrets lay buried in the past, one thing was becoming clear. Kate Mitchell might be exactly what his broken family needed to heal. But Eleanor's words echoed in his mind like a warning. Some doors should never be reopened. The attic of the Anderson mansion held memories like a tomb holds secrets. Michael hadn't ventured up here since Emma's death, but Kate's presence in the house had stirred something restless in him, a need to understand the mysterious rift that had torn apart his wife's most important friendship. Dust motes danced in the afternoon sunlight streaming through the small window as Michael moved between cardboard boxes labeled in Emma's careful handwriting. College memories, medical school, wedding photos. Each box was a chapter of a life cut tragically short. It was in the box marked Personal EH that he found it, a leather-bound diary he'd never seen before, hidden beneath Emma's old medical textbooks. The cover was worn smooth by countless touches, and when Michael opened it, Emma's familiar handwriting made his breath catch. March 15th. The headaches are getting worse. I made an appointment with Dr. Rodriguez tomorrow, but I'm terrified of what he might find. Michael's hands trembled as he turned the pages, each entry revealing a secret battle his wife had fought in complete isolation. March 22nd. The MRI confirmed my worst fears. Brain tumor. Aggressive. Dr. Rodriguez says I have maybe 8 months, possibly less. How do I tell Michael? How do I tell Lily? How do I tell Kate? The diary fell from Michael's numb fingers. Emma had been dying for months before her accident, and he'd never known. She'd carried this devastating secret while maintaining her perfect smile, her loving support, her unwavering strength. With shaking hands, he picked up the diary and continued reading. April 3rd. I can't tell Kate. She's already sacrificed so much for her grandfather's care, working herself to exhaustion trying to balance his Alzheimer's with her residency. If she knew about my diagnosis, she'd abandon everything to try to save me. I know her. She'd spend her last penny, sacrifice her brilliant career, destroy her future trying to fight the impossible. I can't be responsible for ruining another life. April 18th. Kate almost discovered my medical files today. She was helping me organize paperwork for Lily's school enrollment when she saw the edge of Dr. Rodriguez's letterhead. I had to think fast. Told her it was about routine blood work. The lie came so easily it scared me. How many more lies will I have to tell the people I love? May the 2nd. I made a terrible decision today. Kate was getting suspicious about my routine doctor visits. She's too smart, too trained in neurology to be fooled much longer. During her graduation party, I put sedatives in her drink. Not enough to hurt her, just enough to cloud her memory of finding my medical records earlier that evening. She'll never remember what she saw, but she'll remember my coldness afterward. She'll think I chose to push her away. Michael stared at the page in horror. Emma had drugged her best friend to protect a secret that was supposed to protect that same friend. The twisted logic of love and sacrifice made his head spin. May 15th. Kate left for her residency in Seattle today. She didn't even say goodbye, just sent a short text saying she needed a fresh start. I know she's hurt and confused by how I've been treating her lately, but it's better this way. She'll build a brilliant career, find love, have a beautiful life. She'll never know that keeping her away from me was the last gift I could give her. June 30th. The irony isn't lost on me. The accident that killed me also saved me from having to watch this tumor destroy my mind piece by piece. Michael will never know how sick I really was. Kate will never know that I drove her away to save her from watching me die. Some secrets are mercies in disguise. Michael closed the diary, tears streaming down his face. Emma's noble sacrifice had backfired catastrophically. Kate hadn't built a brilliant career. She'd been destroyed by guilt and confusion over their broken friendship. She'd sacrificed everything for her grandfather, just as Emma had feared. But without the support system Emma's friendship could have provided. From downstairs, he could hear Kate reading to Lily, her voice gentle and warm as she brought fairy tales to life. The sound of his daughter's laughter drifted up through the floorboards like music. Emma had tried to save Kate from sacrifice, but her secret had condemned Kate to years of isolated struggle. Now, by bringing Kate home, Michael was finally fulfilling his wife's true wish, that the people she loved most would find their way back to each other. But as he held the diary against his chest, one question haunted him. What else had Emma hidden to protect the people she loved? Michael descended from the attic, clutching Emma's diary like evidence in a trial that had been postponed for too long. The revelations burned in his mind. Emma's secret illness, her desperate attempts to protect Kate, the cruel irony of good intentions gone wrong, but there were still missing pieces, and he suspected Eleanor held the key to completing this tragic puzzle. He found her in the kitchen, methodically preparing Lily's afternoon snack with the precision of someone trying to maintain control in a world spinning off its axis. The sound of Kate's laughter drifted in from the garden, where she was teaching Lily to identify different types of clouds. "You knew," Michael said, placing the diary on the granite countertop with deliberate force. "You knew about Emma's tumor." Eleanor's knife froze mid-slice through an apple. Her face went ashen as she recognized the leather-bound book that contained her daughter's most devastating secrets. "Michael, you shouldn't have read my dead wife's diary? Discovered that she was dying and never told me?" His voice cracked with a mixture of grief and fury. "How long did you know, Eleanor? How long did you watch me live in ignorance while Emma suffered alone?" Eleanor set down the knife with trembling hands. "She made me promise. She begged me. Not to tell you, not to tell anyone. She said she wanted to protect who? Me? Kate? Or did she want to protect the illusion that she was still the perfect wife and mother?" Michael's words were sharp, honed by months of suppressed anger and fresh betrayal. "Don't you dare speak about my daughter that way." Eleanor's composure finally cracked. "Emma sacrificed everything to give you and Lily a normal life for as long as possible. She endured months of agony, hiding symptoms, pretending everything was fine so you could have one last perfect summer together." Through the window, they could see Kate pointing skyward, her face animated as she explained something to Lily, who hung on every word with rapt attention. "And Kate?" Michael pressed. "What about destroying Kate's life in the process?" Eleanor's face twisted with an emotion Michael couldn't quite identify. Guilt, fear, or something deeper. "You should never have given that woman your contact information. You have no idea what you've brought into this house." "Then tell me." Michael slammed his palm on the counter. "Stop speaking in riddles and tell me what has you so terrified of Kate Mitchell." Eleanor moved to the window, watching Kate with an expression that seemed almost haunted. Emma discovered something about Kate before she graduated, something that terrified her so much she was willing to drug her own best friend to keep her away. What could Kate have possibly done that would justify— "It wasn't what she did," Eleanor interrupted, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "It was what she was planning to do. Emma found evidence, documents that suggested Kate wasn't who she claimed to be." Michael stared at his mother-in-law in disbelief. "That's impossible. Kate was Emma's roommate for 3 years. They studied together, lived together. People can hide things, Michael, even from those closest to them." Eleanor's voice carried the weight of personal experience. "Emma found financial records showing large payments to Kate from an unidentified source. She found a second cell phone hidden in Kate's belongings. She found— The conversation was interrupted by the front door bursting open as Lily ran inside, her face flushed with excitement. "Daddy, Kate taught me about cumulus clouds and we saw a rainbow," she announced breathlessly. "She said Mommy used to love rainbows because they meant storms were ending and something beautiful was beginning." Kate appeared in the doorway moments later, her wheelchair navigating the threshold with practiced ease. Her eyes immediately caught the tension between Michael and Eleanor, the diary sitting like an accusation on the counter. "Is everything all right?" Kate asked softly. Eleanor and Michael exchanged a loaded glance. Lily, oblivious to the undercurrents, ran to her father and hugged his legs. "Kate said we can plant a rainbow garden tomorrow with flowers in all different colors. Can we, Daddy?" Please? Michael looked down at his daughter's hopeful face, then at Kate's gentle expression, then at Eleanor's fearful eyes. The diary seemed to pulse with secrets between them, but Lily's innocent joy created a fragile bubble of normalcy that no one wanted to burst. Of course, sweetheart, Michael said finally. We can plant anything you want. But as Kate smiled and Eleanor turned away, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that they were all standing on the edge of an abyss, and one wrong step would send them all tumbling into truths none of them were prepared to face. 3 weeks had passed since Kate's arrival, and the Anderson mansion had undergone a transformation that seemed to defy the laws of grief. The sterile perfection that had characterized the house since Emma's death had given way to something warmer, more alive. The scent of homemade chocolate chip cookies now wafted through the hallways, replacing the antiseptic smell of professional cleaning services. Michael stood in his office doorway watching Kate and Lily in the living room. Kate sat in her wheelchair beside the coffee table, which was covered with art supplies, while Lily perched on a cushion on the floor, completely absorbed in creating what she called a picture for Mommy's wall. The secret to good watercolors, Kate was explaining, guiding Lily's small hand with infinite patience, is to let the colors flow into each other naturally, just like your mommy and I used to do in art class. You and Mommy took art class. Together? Lily asked, her eyes wide with fascination. Kate smiled, a genuine warmth lighting her features for the first time since Michael had found her on that street corner. We did. Your mommy wasn't very good at it, but she loved it anyway. She said art was like joy. It didn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. Michael felt his chest tighten. These glimpses of Emma through Kate's memories were both precious and painful, like finding lost photographs in an old book. What else did you and Mommy do? Lily pressed, abandoning her paintbrush to give Kate her full attention. Well, Kate said conspiratorially, we used to make daisy chains in the quad between classes. Your mommy had this theory that if you made the chain long enough, it would bring good luck to everyone who wore it. Can you teach me to make daisy chains? Lily bounced excitedly. If your daddy says it's okay, we can pick daisies from the garden tomorrow and I'll show you exactly how your mommy taught me. Michael stepped into the room and both Kate and Lily looked up at him with expectant faces that mirrored each other in their hopefulness. I think that sounds like a wonderful idea, he said, settling into the armchair across from them. For the first time in months, the living room felt like a place where a family actually lived, not a museum preserving the memory of one. As the afternoon sun slanted through the windows, Michael found himself studying Kate with new eyes. Yes, she was different from the confident woman he'd known years ago. The accident and hardship had changed her physically and emotionally. But there was something else, something deeper. The way she moved through the world now seemed more intentional, more grateful for small moments of connection. Kate, he said suddenly, how did you end up specializing in neurology? Kate's hands stilled on the art supplies. I wanted to understand how memories work, she said quietly, how the brain holds on to some things and lets others slip away. I thought if I could understand that, I could help people who were losing themselves piece by piece. Like her grandfather, Michael realized, Kate had chosen her specialty to fight the very disease that would later destroy her savings and lead to her current situation. Did it help? He asked gently. Understanding how memory works? Kate was quiet for a long moment, watching Lily carefully, blend blue and yellow to create green. Sometimes I think forgetting is a mercy, she said finally. There are parts of that last year of medical school that I still can't remember clearly. Maybe that's for the best. Michael thought of Emma's diary, of the sedatives and lies and desperate attempts to protect. Maybe Kate's fragmented memories were indeed a mercy, but they were also a prison, keeping her trapped in guilt and confusion about a friendship that had been sacrificed on the altar of good intentions. Kate, Lily said suddenly, looking up from her painting with serious 5-year-old eyes, do you think Mommy can see us from heaven? Kate's breath caught, and Michael tensed, waiting to see how she would handle such a loaded question. I think, Kate said carefully, that when people love us as much as your mommy loved you, that love doesn't just disappear. It finds new ways to show itself. Maybe through the flowers that bloom in your garden, Or the way you laugh when you're happy, or the people who come into your life just when you need them most. Lily nodded solemnly, as if this explanation made perfect sense. Like how you came to teach me about daisy chains just like Mommy would have. Kate's eyes filled with tears, and she reached out to smooth Lily's hair with a tenderness that made Michael's throat close up. Exactly like that, sweetheart. Exactly like that. As Michael watched this gentle exchange, he felt something shift inside him, a recognition that Kate wasn't just helping Lily heal from her mother's loss. She was helping all of them remember what it felt like to be a family again. The manila envelope fell from between the pages of Emma's medical textbook like a confession finally ready to be heard. Michael had returned to the attic, driven by an obsession to understand every detail of his wife's hidden struggle. This time he wasn't just looking for answers. He was looking for absolution, for both Emma and Kate. The envelope bore Kate's name in Emma's careful handwriting, but it had never been mailed. The letter inside was dated just 2 weeks before Emma's fatal accident, and as Michael unfolded it, his hands trembled with the weight of secrets about to be revealed. My dearest Kate, by the time you read this letter, I will be gone. Not by accident, as everyone will believe, but because this tumor is stealing my mind piece by piece, and I refuse to let it take my dignity too. I need to confess something that has haunted every day since our graduation. The night you found my medical files when you discovered my diagnosis, I drugged you. I put sedatives in your wine because I couldn't bear the thought of you sacrificing your brilliant future to fight an unwinnable battle. I know you don't remember finding those test results, but you do remember how cold I became afterward. You remember the cruel words I said, the way I pushed you away. You blame yourself for the death of our friendship, but the blame is entirely mine. Kate, you would have given up everything to save me. You would have abandoned your residency, spent your life savings on experimental treatments, devoted your every waking moment to my care. I know this because it's exactly what you did for your grandfather, and it's exactly the kind of person you are. Too generous, too loving, too willing to sacrifice yourself for others. I couldn't let you do that again. So I made myself into someone you could walk away from. I made you believe I no longer valued our friendship. I let you think the worst of me because it was easier than watching you destroy your future trying to save my past. But now I see how my protection became your prison. Eleanor tells me you've been struggling, that caring for your grandfather while maintaining your career has nearly broken you. The very sacrifice I tried to prevent, you've been making anyway, just alone, without the support system our friendship could have provided. If you're reading this, it means something has brought you back into Michael and Lily's lives. Please don't let my mistakes keep you from the happiness you deserve. Let yourself be loved, Kate. Let yourself accept help the way you've always given it so freely to others. The woman reading this letter is the same brilliant, compassionate person who wanted to spend her life healing broken minds. Don't let my broken choices convince you that you're anything less than extraordinary. With all my love and deepest regret, Emma P.S. I've enclosed something that belongs to you. I never should have kept it. Michael's vision blurred as he reached for the small object wrapped in tissue paper at the bottom of the envelope. It was a ring, not expensive but clearly meaningful. A simple silver band with a small engraved inscription, "For Kate who sees light in dark places." Footsteps on the attic stairs made him look up. Kate appeared at the top, her upper body strength allowing her to navigate the narrow staircase, with her arms while leaving her wheelchair below. Lily said you were up here, she said, slightly breathless from the climb. She was worried because you missed story time. Her eyes fell on the letter in his hands and her face went pale. What is that? It's from Emma, Michael said softly. She wrote it for you, but she never sent it. Kate pulled herself across the floor to where Michael sat, her expression shifting from curiosity to recognition as she read Emma's familiar handwriting. When she finished reading, tears were streaming down her face. She drugged me, Kate whispered. I knew something was wrong that night, but I could never remember. I've spent years thinking I was losing my mind, that the stress of everything was making me forget important things. Michael held out the ring. She said this belonged to you. Kate's hands shook as she took it. She gave this to me when we graduated, from undergrad. We promised we'd always be sisters no matter what. She slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly. I looked for it everywhere when I moved to Seattle. I thought I'd lost it in the chaos of packing. Kate, Michael said gently. Emma's gone, but her letter. It's like she's giving us permission to heal from her mistakes. Kate looked up at him, her green eyes bright with tears and something else. Hope, maybe, or forgiveness, finally finding its way home. She knew, Kate said wonderingly. Even at the end, she knew we'd need each other. Downstairs, Lily's voice called for them, and they could hear Eleanor's disapproving murmur in response. But up in the attic, surrounded by the remnants of Emma's carefully guarded secrets, Michael and Kate sat in the dust and sunlight, finally understanding the true cost of love that tries to protect by pushing away. The letter had given them more than answers. It had given them permission to stop punishing themselves for crimes they'd never committed. The morning sun filtered through the kitchen windows as Eleanor Harrison stood in the doorway, a bouquet of fresh daisies trembling in her weathered hands. She'd been awake all night, wrestling with the weight of Emma's diary and the devastating letter Michael had shared with her just hours before. For 3 days, she'd watched Kate move through the house with a new lightness, the burden of guilt finally lifted from her shoulders. She'd seen Lily bloom under Kate's patient care, heard her granddaughter's laughter echo through rooms that had been silent for too long, and she'd witnessed Michael's tentative steps toward healing, his guarded heart slowly opening to the possibility of hope. Eleanor had spent those same 3 days confronting her own culpability in the tragedy that had unfolded. She'd known about Emma's plan to drug Kate. She'd helped maintain the cruel charade that followed. And she'd spent 2 years feeding her own guilt by painting Kate as the villain in a story where Emma had been both victim and perpetrator. Mrs. Harrison? Kate's voice was gentle as she wheeled into the kitchen, followed by the aroma of pancakes and the sound of Lily's chattering from the dining room. Eleanor turned, and Kate saw something in the older woman's face that hadn't been there before: vulnerability, regret, and something that might have been shame. "These are for you," Eleanor said, extending the daisies with hands that shook slightly. Emma always said daisies were simple and strong at the same time, like you. Kate's eyes widened in surprise. "Mrs. Harrison, Please," Eleanor interrupted, moving closer to Kate's wheelchair. "Let me speak. I owe you more than an apology. I owe you the truth." Kate accepted the flowers, their simple beauty a stark contrast to the complexity of emotions swirling between them. "I read Emma's diary," Eleanor continued, her voice breaking slightly. "I read her letter to you. I've known for 2 years that my daughter made terrible choices in her final months, and instead of honoring her memory by making things right, I blamed you for her mistakes. Eleanor, you don't need to." "I do," Eleanor said firmly. "I helped Emma keep her secrets. When she told me about drugging you, about the lies she told, about the way she destroyed your friendship to protect you from her illness, I should have stopped her. I should have insisted she tell you the truth." Through the kitchen window, they could see Lily in the garden, carefully arranging pebbles into patterns, her concentration absolute and peaceful. "But I was terrified," Eleanor admitted. "Terrified of losing control, of watching my daughter's carefully constructed world fall apart. So I became her accomplice in a deception that hurt everyone it was supposed to protect." Kate reached out and gently touched Eleanor's arm. "You were a mother watching her daughter die. You can't blame yourself for trying to honor her wishes." "But I can blame myself for what came after," Eleanor said, tears flowing freely now. "For the way I treated you when you returned, for the suspicions I planted in Michael's mind, for making you feel unwelcome in a house where you should have been embraced." Eleanor moved to the stove where Kate had been preparing breakfast for the family, a simple domestic scene that spoke of belonging and care. "Emma used to make pancakes exactly like this," Eleanor said, watching Kate flip the golden circles, with practiced ease. "She learned the recipe from you, didn't she?" Kate nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. "It was our Sunday morning tradition in college. She always burned the first batch, but she never gave up trying. She talked about those Sunday mornings," Eleanor said softly, Even at the end, when the tumor was affecting her memory, she remembered making pancakes with her best friend. She remembered feeling safe and loved and young. They stood together in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of shared grief, a newfound understanding settling between them like a foundation being laid. "Kate," Eleanor said finally, "I want you to know that I see what you've done for this family. The way Lily lights up when you walk into a room. The way Michael has started smiling again. The way this house feels like a home instead of a mausoleum. They've done just as much for me," Kate replied. "Maybe more." Eleanor nodded, then surprised Kate by leaning down and gently embracing her. "Emma was right about you," she whispered. "You do see light in dark places, and you've brought that light back to us when we needed it most." From the dining room, Lily's voice called out, "Grandma Eleanor, Kate, come see what I made." As they moved toward Lily's excited summons, Eleanor felt a weight she'd carried for 2 years finally beginning to lift. Emma's mistakes had caused immeasurable pain, but perhaps finally they could also lead to healing. The daisy sat on the kitchen counter, simple and strong, a symbol of new beginnings blooming from old sorrows. Eleanor's hands trembled as she placed 3 sealed envelopes on the kitchen table, each bearing different handwriting dates. 1 year later, when Kate returns, and when love is ready. The letters had been hidden in Emma's jewelry box wrapped in tissue paper, like precious secrets waiting for their moment. "I found these yesterday while sorting through Emma's things," Eleanor said, her voice heavy with revelation. "There are more letters, Michael. So many more." Kate and Michael sat across from each other, the weight of new discoveries settling between them like puzzle pieces finally clicking into place. "She planned this," Michael whispered, staring at the envelope marked, "When Kate returns." "Emma, actually, planned for us to find each other again." Eleanor nodded, pulling out a chair with shaking legs. "The restaurant where you had lunch with Lily that day, Emma chose it specifically. She knew Kate had been staying at the shelter 3 blocks away. She knew Kate would walk past there looking for work." "That's impossible," Kate breathed. "How? Could she have known I'd be in Boston? I was living in Seattle when she died." "Because she arranged for your grandfather to be transferred to a care facility here," Eleanor said quietly. "Emma used her medical connections to ensure he received better treatment in Boston. She knew you'd follow him." The room fell silent except for the ticking of the kitchen clock and Lily's distant laughter from the garden. "The timing of your accident," Eleanor continued, her voice barely audible. "Emma had been tracking your life through mutual friends. She knew about your grandfather's deteriorating condition, knew you were struggling financially. When you had the car accident, she saw an opportunity." Michael's face went pale. "Are you saying Emma somehow caused—" "No," Eleanor said quickly. "Never that. But she saw your situation and realized it would eventually bring you to Boston, to poverty, to the exact circumstances where Michael and Lily would find you when they needed you most." Kate stared at the envelope with her name on it. "She orchestrated our reunion from beyond the grave. She spent her final months writing letters for every scenario she could imagine," Eleanor said. "Letters for Lily's birthdays, for Michael's. Dark days for the moment when you would inevitably return to each other's lives." Eleanor stood and moved to the window, watching Lily chase butterflies in the garden that Kate had helped her plant. "Emma told me something before she died," Eleanor said. "She said love wasn't just about being together. It was about making sure the people you love could find happiness even after you're gone." Michael reached across the table and took Kate's hand. "She gave us her blessing before we even knew we needed it." "More than that," Kate said, tears falling onto the unopened envelope. "She gave us each other." Outside, Lily's voice called to them, joyful and carefree. Through the window, they could see her wearing a crown of daisies, spinning in circles, among the flowers they'd planted together. Emma's plan hadn't just been about bringing them together. It had been about creating a family that could heal from love's deepest wounds and bloom again, stronger than before. "Aunt Kate, did you used to be a doctor like the ones on TV?" Lily's innocent question hung in the air as she sat cross-legged on Kate's bed, watching her brush her hair before bedtime. The simple inquiry struck Kate like lightning, illuminating dreams she'd buried beneath years of survival and loss. "Was studying to be one," Kate said softly, setting down the brush. "But sometimes life takes us in different directions." "But you could be one again, right?" Lily persisted with the relentless logic of childhood. "Daddy says you're the smartest person he knows." That night, Kate lay awake staring at the ceiling, Lily's words echoing in her mind. The next morning, she found Michael in his study, surrounded by papers and coffee cups. "Michael, I need to ask you something," she said, wheeling closer to his desk. "Do you think it's too late for someone like me to return to medicine?" Michael looked up, his eyes immediately brightening with understanding. "Kate, it's never too late to reclaim your dreams." He stood and moved to a file cabinet, pulling out a folder that seemed to have been waiting for this exact moment. "After I read Emma's diary, I did some research. I contacted Dr. Stevens at Boston General. He was your mentor during medical school, wasn't he?" Kate's eyes widened. "David Stevens? But I haven't spoken to him in years." "He remembers you," Michael smiled. "In fact, when I told him about your situation, he said the neurology department has been looking for someone with your specific expertise. They need a specialist who understands both the medical and personal sides of neurological trauma." Michael pulled out a letter from the folder. "Emma wrote this, a recommendation letter to Dr. Stevens. She never sent it, but she kept updating it over the years, tracking your grandfather's care, your resilience, your growth." Kate took the letter with trembling hands, reading Emma's words about her compassion, her brilliant mind, her unique understanding of patient care born from personal experience. "There's more," Michael said gently. "Emma saved all your medical, school certificates, your transcripts, even your research papers. She kept everything as if she knew someday you'd need them again." "She never stopped believing I'd return to medicine," Kate whispered. "And neither should you," Michael said. "Dr. Stevens wants to meet with you next week. They have adaptive equipment, support systems for physicians with mobility challenges. Your wheelchair wouldn't be a barrier, it would be an asset, showing patients that limitations don't define capabilities." Kate looked out the window at Lily playing in the garden, then back at Michael's encouraging face. "I could still help people heal their minds." "You've already started," Michael said. "You've helped heal ours." That evening, as Kate tucked Lily into bed, the little girl looked up with sleepy eyes and said, "I told everyone at school my Aunt Kate is going to be a brain doctor. They think that's the coolest thing ever." "What if I'm not ready?" Kate asked. "Mommy used to say being ready isn't about not being scared," Lily replied with 5-year-old wisdom. "It's about doing the right thing even when you are scared." Kate kissed Lily's forehead, feeling Emma's presence in her daughter's wise words. Tomorrow she would call Dr. Stevens. Tomorrow she would take the first step toward reclaiming the future Emma had never stopped believing she deserved. The spring afternoon had started perfectly clear, but as Kate, Michael, and Lily knelt in the garden planting the daisy seeds they'd carefully selected together, gray clouds began gathering overhead with the promise of rain. "Are you sure these will grow, Aunt Kate?" Lily asked, patting soil over the tiny seeds with her small hands. "Your mommy always said daisies were the bravest flowers," Kate replied, smoothing the earth gently. "They grow almost anywhere, even in places where other flowers can't survive." Michael watched Kate's patient interaction with his daughter, marveling at how naturally she'd stepped into their lives. The past month had brought remarkable changes. Kate had met with Dr. Stevens and would begin her residency completion program next week. Lily was thriving with renewed joy, and the household hummed with life again. The first raindrops began to fall, large and warm, creating tiny craters in the freshly turned soil. "Oh no," Lily exclaimed. "The rain will wash away our seeds." "Actually," Kate laughed, tilting her face up to catch the drops. "Rain helps seeds grow. Your mommy loved dancing in the rain. She said it washed away all the worries and made room for new dreams." Michael's breath caught at this memory he'd never heard before. "Emma danced in the rain?" "Every chance she got," Kate smiled, water beginning to streak down her cheeks. "She said raindrops were like tiny blessings falling from heaven. The rain began falling more steadily, and Michael found himself remembering a promise he'd made to Emma during their engagement, that they would dance in their first rain shower as a married couple. Life had been so busy, and they'd never found the time. Acting on impulse, Michael stood and walked to Kate's wheelchair. "May I?" he asked, softly. Kate looked puzzled until Michael gently lifted her from her chair, supporting her weight as she wrapped her arms around his neck. Together, they swayed in the gentle rain while Lily clapped and spun around them, her delighted giggles mixing with the sound of water on leaves. "This is how Mommy would have wanted it," Lily announced with absolute certainty, creating her own little dance among the newly planted daisy beds. From the kitchen window, Eleanor watched the scene through tears, finally understanding what Emma had meant when she'd said that love doesn't end. It transforms, finding new ways to express itself through the people left behind. As they moved together in the rain, Kate and Michael felt something shift between them, a recognition that they were no longer just helping each other heal from Emma's loss, but creating something new and beautiful from the foundation she'd laid. "Emma would be happy," Kate whispered, against Michael's ear as the rain intensified. "She planned this too," Michael replied, spinning them slowly. "I'm sure of it." Above them, the storm clouds were already beginning to break apart, revealing patches of blue sky. Soon there would be a rainbow, the kind Emma had always said meant beautiful things were beginning after the storms had passed. The daisies would grow strong in this rain, just as their family was learning to bloom again in the space where grief and joy, endings and beginnings, could coexist in the same garden. The guilt had been growing like shadows at twilight, subtle at first, then overwhelming in its darkness. For weeks, Michael and Kate had been dancing around feelings neither dared to name, their connection deepening with each shared smile, each moment of understanding, each tender interaction with Lily. Tonight, after tucking Lily into bed with stories about brave daisies and rainbow gardens, they found themselves sitting in the garden where their new flowers were beginning to sprout, tiny green shoots of hope pushing through the earth. "Michael," Kate said quietly, her voice barely audible above the evening crickets, "I feel like I'm betraying Emma's memory." Michael's hand stilled on the arm of the garden bench. He'd been wrestling with the same torment, the same sense that loving Kate somehow diminished what he'd shared with his wife. "I keep thinking she's watching us," Kate continued, her fingers nervously twisting the ring Emma had given her so many years ago. "And I wonder if she would forgive us for whatever this is becoming." Michael stood and walked to the edge of the garden, where Emma's favorite rose bush bloomed in defiant beauty. "I found another letter," he said finally, "one I wasn't sure I should share." Kate's wheelchair moved softly across the stone path as she joined him. "From Emma?" Michael nodded, pulling the familiar envelope from his jacket pocket. "This one was addressed to me. She wrote it 3 days before the accident." With trembling hands, he unfolded the letter and began to read by the soft glow of the garden lights. "My dearest Michael, if you're reading this, it means my plan worked, and Kate has found her way back to you and Lily. By now, you've probably discovered the truth about why she left, and hopefully you've begun to see what I always saw, that Kate Mitchell has the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known. I need you to know something that might surprise you. I've seen the way you look at Kate. Even when we were all in college together, even when you were falling in love with me, there was something in your eyes when you watched her care for others, when you saw her brilliant mind at work. You respected her in a way that made me love you even more. I'm not telling you this to cause pain, but to give you permission. Love isn't a finite resource, Michael. The love you had for me doesn't diminish because you find love again. If anything, it proves that your heart is capable of the kind of deep, sustaining love that changes lives. Kate has spent her whole life giving pieces of herself away to patients, to her grandfather, to friends who needed her strength. She deserves someone who will cherish every part of her, someone who understands that her wheelchair doesn't define her any more than my death defines our marriage. If you're falling in love with her, don't fight it. If she's falling in love with you, help her believe she deserves it. You both have my blessing, my encouragement, and my eternal gratitude for giving Lily the loving family she needs. The heart has infinite capacity for love, my darling. Don't let guilt convince you otherwise." Michael's voice broke as he finished reading, and Kate was crying openly, her hands pressed to her mouth. "She knew," Kate whispered. "Before we even knew ourselves, she knew. She wanted this for us," Michael said, sitting on the garden bench and pulling Kate's chair close to him. Emma spent her final months orchestrating not just our reunion, but our permission to love each other. Kate reached out and took his, and their fingers intertwining naturally. "I've loved you since college," she admitted, her voice raw with honesty. "I respected your relationship with Emma too much to ever say anything, but the feelings were always there. And I've been drawn to you since the day we met," Michael confessed. "Your strength, your compassion, the way you see hope in impossible situations. Emma knew that about me before I understood it myself." Under the star-filled sky, surrounded by the daisies they'd planted together and blessed by Emma's written words, Michael and Kate finally allowed themselves to acknowledge what had been growing between them. Not a betrayal of the past, but a fulfillment of Emma's deepest wish for their happiness. When Michael leaned down and Kate reached up, their first kiss was tender, hesitant, and then confident, sealed by love, sanctioned by blessing, and witnessed by the garden that had become their sanctuary of healing. 1 year had passed since that life-changing lunch by the harbor, and the Anderson house buzzed with celebration. Kate had successfully completed her medical residency and would start as a practicing neurologist next month. Lily had grown into a confident 6-year-old whose laughter filled every room, and Michael had learned to love again without diminishing the love he'd shared with Emma. "Daddy, there's something in the attic." Lily's excited voice echoed down the stairs as she bounded into the living room, her face flushed with discovery. "I was looking for my old teddy bear, and I found a treasure chest." Michael and Kate exchanged glances. They thought they'd found all of Emma's hidden surprises, but apparently, she'd had one final gift waiting for the right moment. "A treasure chest?" Kate asked, wheeling closer to Lily's animated storytelling. "It's locked, but there's a little golden key tied to it with a pink ribbon," Lily explained, tugging on Michael's hand. "Come see, please." The three of them made their way to the attic, where indeed, tucked behind a stack of Christmas decorations, sat an ornate wooden chest that none of them had noticed before. The small golden key dangled from a silk ribbon, as if Emma had known exactly when this moment would arrive. "Should we open it?" Michael asked, though they all knew the answer. Lily carefully turned the key, and the chest opened with a soft click. Inside, nestled in white satin, were treasures that took their breath away. The first item was a leather-bound photo album with empty pages, except for the inscription on the first page. "For new memories to fill the spaces where old ones used to live." Beneath that lay a delicate music box that, when opened, played Canon in D, the song that had played at Michael and Emma's wedding, but also, they now realized, the song Emma had hummed while studying with Kate in college. "There are letters," Lily announced, pulling out 3 sealed envelopes labeled with future dates. Lily's 10th birthday, Kate's first day as Dr. Mitchell, and "When love is ready for its next dance." Kate's hands trembled as she opened the envelope with her name. Inside was a certificate of achievement Emma had created, congratulating Dr. Catherine Mitchell on her return to medicine, along with a note. "You were always meant to heal hearts and minds. I'm so proud of the doctor you've become and the woman you've always been." But it was the final item in the chest that brought them all to tears. A pristine white wedding dress, simple and elegant, with a card attached. "For when love is ready, for its next dance. This dress has only known happiness. May it bring the same to your new beginning. With all my love and blessing, Emma." Michael stared at the dress in wonder. She planned even this. "Daddy," Lily said with the matter-of-fact wisdom that children possess, "I think this means Mommy wants you and Aunt Kate to get married." Kate laughed through her tears, holding the dress against herself. "Your Mommy thought of everything, didn't she?" From the bottom of the chest, Lily pulled out one last surprise. A small velvet box containing a simple but beautiful engagement ring with a note. "For the proposal I know is coming. Because some love stories are meant to have happy, new chapters. Michael took the ring with shaking hands, then looked at Kate, who was crying and laughing at the same time. I had this whole speech planned, he said, dropping to one knee beside her wheelchair. But Emma seems to have beaten me to it. Kate, Mitchell, he continued, his voice thick with emotion, will you marry me? Will you help me raise Lily? Will you let Emma's dreams for our happiness become our reality? Kate's answer was a kiss that tasted of tears and joy and promises of forever. Yes, she whispered against his lips. Yes to all of it. Lily clapped and cheered, then suddenly grew thoughtful. Will I get to be the flower girl? You'll be the best flower girl ever, Kate assured her, pulling the little girl into their embrace. As they sat in the attic surrounded by Emma's final gifts, they understood that this wasn't just about finding love again. It was about honoring the profound love that had made their new love possible. Emma hadn't just given them permission to be happy. She'd orchestrated every detail of their happiness with the precision of someone who understood that the greatest love sometimes requires letting go so others can hold on. The morning of Kate and Michael's wedding dawned with golden sunlight streaming through the garden where their daisy patch had grown into a magnificent carpet of white and yellow blooms. 6 months had passed since the proposal, and today, in the presence of family and friends, they would fulfill Emma's final wish. As Kate prepared in Emma's old room, now transformed into a bridal suite, Eleanor helped her into the dress that had waited patiently in the treasure chest. The simple elegance suited Kate perfectly, and when she looked in the mirror, she saw not a replacement for Emma, but a woman stepping into her own deserved happiness. There's one more envelope, Eleanor said quietly, producing a letter marked Wedding Day to be read together. Downstairs, Michael waited in his study with Lily, both dressed in their wedding finest. When Kate arrived, they gathered around the desk where so many of Emma's secrets had been revealed, ready for her final message. Michael opened the letter, with hands that no longer trembled with uncertainty, but with anticipation for whatever wisdom Emma had left for this moment. My dearest family, he read aloud. If you're reading this, then my greatest dream has come true. You've found each other, chosen each other, and decided to build a life together on the foundation of love I helped lay. Lily, my precious daughter, I want you to understand something important about love. Love isn't like a pie where each slice makes the whole smaller. Love is like a garden where each new flower makes the entire space more beautiful. Your daddy's love for Kate doesn't take away from his love for me. It honors it by proving that his heart is big enough to hold all the love he needs to be happy. Kate, my dearest friend, you once told me that the brain's capacity for memory was infinite, that we never truly run out of space for new experiences. The same is true of the heart. There's room in this family for all the love we've shared and all the love you'll create together. You're not taking my place. You're making our family complete in a way I never could have imagined. Michael, my beloved husband, you've given me the greatest gift by allowing Kate to love our daughter, and by letting yourself be loved in return. Lily will grow up knowing that love doesn't end with death. It transforms, it multiplies, it finds new ways to express itself through the people we leave behind. I planned this reunion because I saw something beautiful in the three of you together. I saw a family that could heal from the deepest wounds and bloom again, stronger than before. I saw love that could honor the past while embracing the future. As you stand together today. Know that I'm not a memory you need to preserve or a ghost you need to appease. I'm a part of the love story that brought you together, and that makes me part of your happiness forever. Live fully. Love completely. Let your garden grow wild with joy. Michael's voice broke as he finished. All my love, always, and in all ways, Emma. The three of them stood in the golden morning light streaming through the windows, holding each other as tears of joy and gratitude fell like blessings. Outside, the wedding guests were gathering in the garden among the daisies that had grown from seeds planted in sorrow and nurtured by hope. Dr. Stevens would officiate, Eleanor would give Kate away, and Lily would scatter daisy petals as she walked down The aisle is the most important flower girl in the world. As they prepared to join their guests, Kate looked up at Michael and said, "She's here, isn't she? I can feel her in every flower, every breeze, every moment of happiness." "She's in every good thing that comes from this day forward," Michael replied, lifting Lily into his arms. Together, they walked toward their future, a family reborn from love's ashes, blessed by the woman who had taught them that the greatest gift isn't holding on, but knowing when to let go so others can fly. In the garden, the daisies swayed in the gentle breeze, simple and strong, a living testament to the truth that love, like flowers, always finds a way to bloom again.